Okay, thank you.
Thank you. What is this right here?
That's your pavilion by the jail.
Oh, okay. I'm with you.
Yeah, I just got a 14 by 40.
Yeah. Good evening. Let's call the meeting to order, please. Today is August 8th. We're at the Civic Center for our regular monthly meeting. Let's stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. McLaughlin?
Here.
Miss Albrecht?
Here.
Mayor Kathy?
Here.
Mr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Putnam?
Here. Thank you. I don't have any comments at this time. We'll start. Rex, you have anything? No. Okay.
No.
No.
Wow. All right. Council, citizens' comments. I think everyone knows the drill. Have a citizen's comment, come to the podium, give us your name and your comment.
My name is Beatrice Baker. Been here in Mexico Beach for quite some time. I have 3 comments on Grand Isle subdivision. It's a platted subdivision, and right now we're having a problem with vacation rentals in there. It's platted a residential neighborhood, and I don't believe that there should be vacation rentals in there. We counted 9 cars one evening, and I have rentals on the front of me and on the side of me now, and it started last summer. And I'd like to have the council address that, because I don't think it should be allowed in a residential neighborhood. Also, in 2005, 2006, they started dividing lots in there and leaving these garages on these lots. And I'm afraid that we're going to end up with a lot of garages on these lots that doesn't have a house. And according to the plat, they're supposed to have, they can have a garage on the lot with a house, or they can have one detached garage on the lot. But they're dividing them and selling the lots with a garage on them. And one garage I know of, they separated that lot, and the house is over the lot line. So it's broke the covenants on that plat. Also, that canal, or the canal from Paradise Path going towards the city yard, they say it's owned by a private individual which lives across the ditch. He has now posted signs all along our side of the ditch with no dumping, no trespassing, and we have to look at those signs every day. And also, he's come along and sprayed his side of the ditch with some kind of defoliant, and it's killed all the vegetation on that side. And I'm wondering if the EPA would be interested in what was sprayed. But that's my comments on Grand Isle subdivision. And right now I own 7 lots and 4 houses in that subdivision, and I'd like to see especially the vacation rentals addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? Citizens' comments?
I have a comment on your solid waste ordinance, your sanitation ordinance. Is it appropriate to address it now or when you?
Just wait till it comes up.
Okay.
Others? Okay. Moving on to scheduled appearances. Mr. Book, there you are.
As you know, we had our first public workshop on redesigning the comp plan on the 1st of August. And Mel, can I get the, there you go. And We didn't have as much public involvement as I'd hoped, but the ones that were there gave us some really good input. So we came away from the meeting feeling we'd accomplished a lot. And again, this workshop was trying to develop a vision of what we envision the city being like in the next 10 to 20 years. And before we developed what kind of vision we were going to come up with, we felt there were 4 questions we had to answer. And you can see them there in the order that we addressed them. And then by the time we got done, again, we felt we had a pretty good, solid vision of what we wanted 10 to 20 years from now. In answer to the first, whom do we serve, we came up with 4 different groups of people. Residents, property owners, tourists, and business owners. And then we took that 4 groups of people and went from there. Can I have the next slide, please, now? Okay, so the vision. This is what we eventually look at the city being in the future. And if you can look at it, it's not a whole lot different than what we currently have. We just got it in black and white now, rather than people trying to think about what we're doing. But let me give you a couple comments that were made when I asked the question, explain or describe to me what we have as a city now. And these are the comments that came out more than one time. Uncrowded beaches, family-oriented, family values, fishing village, small town atmosphere, reluctant to change, and that came out I can't tell you how many times. Expensive housing, growing, friendly, helpful community, low-rise, varied architecture, safe, tourist-oriented, and extraordinarily easy beach access. So you can take those comments and see that's pretty much what's been put in here for the vision. Okay, can I get the next one, please? Okay, this is how we hope to implement that vision. Okay, and I'll let you read that for yourself. Now, we developed an intent paragraph among the Planning and Zoning Board a little over a month ago. And we didn't publish it to anybody. We were going to wait and do something with it once we had this public workshop. And after we had the public workshop, we felt that we needed to make some tweaks here and there, but what we have is basically pretty sound. You'll see some basically differences up in there where some of the words are italicized. Those are changes that we made to our initial draft based on public input. And then there are a couple things up there which are really subjective and we're going to take a lot more detailed talking about when we actually get to the future use work on the ordinance. And the first one is congestion and overcrowding. What's congestion and overcrowding? And maybe different things to different people. So we need to be more subjective on that, or we need to be more definitive on that. And then could you slide down a little bit more? And then affordable housing. That is a big issue because 2 members of the people that were present actually owned businesses in Mexico Beach, and none of their people that work for them can afford to live here. So that's an issue that they want to address. But then again, housing is based on the real estate market. And I don't know whether there's much we can do with that. But that's something that we're going to have to address in a lot more detail when we get down to the future housing or future workshops type thing. Now, our next meeting will be on the 15th of August, and we're supposed to address sections 2 through 7 of the comp plan. Now, those sections of the comp plan basically are administrative in nature. They deal with how the comp plan is used, how it's amended, and what kind of public input they have. The Planning Collaborative, who is basically doing the drafting and the writing of the comp plan itself, has already done a lot of work in those sections. So we envision that going fast, and we hope to get into future land use at our next meeting. And then after the next meeting, again, y'all will be briefed on where we stand. Questions or comments on what we did last time?
I think it's a very good start.
My only comment is, thank you for what you're doing. That's a tedious task. Well done for the organization and the attempt to get input. Thank you.
Well, and I thank the public that attended, and we hope that we get more public input in the future. Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Okay. Jeff?
Good evening, Jeff Britton with Dewberry Preble Rish. Just have a couple of things to touch on this week, not a whole lot. For the current FERDAP grant cycle, the project we have selected is the pavilion at Parker Park. That's the same one that was submitted last time, but the FERDAP grants were not funded this year by the state. Sidewalk grants, we're still waiting to hear from DOT. Our DEP Sand Bypass Beach Restoration Grant, we're working through a clarification with DEP on the scope for it. There was some question as to what we were proposing. Is that allowable under the grant? The language is pretty clear that what we're proposing is. We just need to find out what the thought is on DEP's behalf as to why it wouldn't be allowed. So a phone call should clear that up. That should happen this week. Alternate water source project. The test well is in. Water quality testing is ongoing. We should know more about that in the next week or two. That pretty much does it for my project updates, other than repairs to the pier. Material should be in within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and the repairs should begin at that time. So, anyone have any questions?
Questions? Anyone from the floor have anything? For Dewberry?
How's the walking bridge coming?
That's a good question.
It's not, you can tell.
Well, I'm going to keep mentioning it.
I saw a hand in the back. Just stand up back there, please, Bill, and you don't have to come up here.
Just wondering, I know some discussion about the canal markers being too close together. Is that something we're working on?
That's something that we are working on, but not through him.
Okay.
Philip, you gonna have a report on that? Canal markers, what you told me today, you're just gonna?
I don't have nothing right now, but I'll have something. I'm hoping to have something by next meeting.
That's through the Coast Guard, and we're trying to get them to give us some clarification on what we can do.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff, appreciate it. Little housekeeping, let's run back to consent agenda. Y'all let me pass that up, didn't you? Okay. We have one meeting, that's the July 25th. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Second?
Second.
Any opposition? Motion carries 5-0. All right, moving on, under planning and zoning. Traditionally, I assume, Mel, you handle those?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In this particular instance, you all might be looking, who is GAE Incorporated, the owner? That is the Space Place. They are asking for an additional pole barn on their property. It doesn't increase any impervious surfaces or anything like that. So on review of the site plan, which I'll get to here in a second. There we go. You can see the existing structures there. You can see their other storage are in the open there. Their other barn will be right in this neck of the woods there. If you can see my little hand waving there in the corner, that's where it shall be. It met everything for code, so the recommendation to the P&Z was to approve. They did approve it unanimously, and so now it's up to the city council to ask questions or say yay or nay.
Questions?
I don't see any problem with it. Looks like what they've already been doing for the last 10 years anyway.
I don't have any questions on that.
Questions? Any questions? Any comments concerning the development order or commercial development order, 625 15th Street? It shows here that it's been staff recommended for approval, and that says that it meets all of the criteria as per the LDR. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Chair will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to accept it.
Second.
Have a second. Any further comments? Call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Puckett?
Yes. Before you move to the second one on there, I want to relinquish the chair to the Mayor Pro Tem. I have a conflict of interest with that, so I will let you handle that.
Okay. So we have another request from planning and zoning. Go ahead, Mel.
Yes, ma'am. A canal development order is required to go before the plan and zoning and then ultimately final approval by the city council. This particular area is off of 36th Street. I'll get a map up here in a minute.
32nd.
I'm sorry, 32nd. There's the pretty map, nice and colored and everything, so you can see it really well. The house in question is right there. You can see the hand waving again. The proposed structure will be 16 feet wide. Out into the canal, there is not a structure there at the present time. The structure next door to that is rather large, so luckily the requests from the petitioners are not for one as large. There is an issue with any future dock development in the corner there, but the petitioners assure me that there's sufficient room to get through there in case something does happen there in the future. So at this point, the recommendation to the planning and zoning was to approve it, and they did also recommend to the city council for approval. So at this time, do you have any questions?
Anybody on the council?
This dock is the same as, I'm looking at the one on the right, the white one. This 16 feet. Is this one we're going to build 16 also?
That's it, right there.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Right.
The other one is,
The other one was built there, 34.
yeah, about a
The
mile.
big one, okay.
Half a mile wide.
How much space from 16 over here to the bank, you think?
It's 45, can I answer that, Sean?
Go right ahead.
There's about 45 feet along the back of that right there. There should be more space than that, but you've got the Waterside Village having the runoff issue right there that's sanded over about 10 feet. But the back there measures about 45, measures about, I think, 75 at the front.
If I may, I have a question. The structure that's labeled non-permitted, abandoned floating dock, which house is that associated with? And have they
Lot
objected?
number 2,
Okay.
right next door.
Yeah. No objections from them?
It was left there from 2 previous owners. We've made contact multiple times. Nobody will claim it. Maybe a city issue one day to do something with it.
Rex, anything else? Bill?
No, ma'am.
I have a concern for Lot 1 and 2. Now, I know that Mr. Childs has contacted Lot number 2, from what I understand, that they're not concerned about the dock and they're not interested. However, if they sell and they want to put a dock in, they have the rights to put a dock in, and I think at 16 feet, we're not leaving much room for 1 and 2 to have a dock, particularly 2. 1 could have it as far south as possible by Waterside. And I noticed on the back, the map, they vary in size, but there are a couple of 14 feet docks.
On 14, Ms. Linda, that was measured from the property appraiser site. We resubmitted that to Ms. Royce after she had us go down there and measure. There's none smaller than 16.
Okay.
There's an updated information that the building department. We
Okay.
went as small as 1 exists.
Okay. And this has nothing to do with this, but I thought somehow that rule of thumb was if the canal is 50 feet, 25% would go to one resident, 25 the other, and 50 in the 50% would be in the middle for the public. So if that's the rule of thumb, that would mean, and all of our docks are way oversized then. So I'm not going to take it out on you. I wouldn't think to have anybody take it out on you. If that was the rule of thumb, our dock shouldn't be more than 12 and a half feet. But I do have a concern with, just because of lot 1 and 2.
And that 25-25 rule seems to be the way we've all been told. It doesn't exist anywhere in the LDR, but it was Mr. McGinnis and Mr. Hubbard's interpretation.
Right.
But somehow they got approved for 50% of the canal right here.
Right. It doesn't make sense.
So can I move that we approve the request?
Can I
Do you
have a
have any-
second?
Do I have a second?
I did, yeah, anybody else want to speak?
I'll second that.
Anybody from the audience want to share their thoughts? Okay, so then we need to make a motion.
I did.
And I did.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. McLaughlin,
Here, yes.
Mr. Albrecht,
No.
Mayor Kathy,
He didn't vote.
Mr. Wallace.
Yes.
Mr. Putnam.
Yes.
And I give it back to you.
That should say an abstention on my phone.
Yeah.
I was sitting here asleep at the wheel. We heard you snore. Okay. Thank you. All right, ordinance. We have a first reading slated for ordinance 672. Do I have a motion to read by title only?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any objection to reading?
Mayor, I have a comment on this one. This is rolling stuff out.
Oh, I apologize. Yes, sorry. Jumped the gun. We'll turn it over to our counselor.
And I apologize for us not addressing this last week, but because of the way we approach the meetings, I'm not always involved in all the work that goes into preparing the packages. I've spoken to the city administrator and to the mayor already. These comments would apply to ordinance 672 and to 673. They're both ordinances that were designed to change the future land use category in the comprehensive plan and the zoning of parcels of property. We really need to pull these off tonight. We need to separate each property into two separate ordinances, one for the zoning, one for the comprehensive plan. I've also got to rewrite some aspects of the ordinance. Right now, the titles don't accurately reflect what the ordinances would do. And in the case of the 15th Street property, all we would have been doing tonight is a first reading of the ordinance. So it's the ordinance that really has the issue that we need to correct before we proceed with the first reading. And in the case of ordinance 673, that's 30th Street North. Because that property is over 10 acres, we would be doing a full hearing tonight as well as a hearing later after the ordinance has been transmitted to the state to review. So it's premature to do that, particularly with the state review. I think that they would object to the current drafting of the ordinance. So my request is that we come back with these items next meeting. It'll be 2 ordinances per parcel, and they'll be cleaned up and revised.
Okay. This was obviously inadvertently advertised as such, and we just didn't know, as Nick just said. So, what's appropriate is to simply table these, or just withdraw them, or not hear them at all?
I would just pull them off the agenda because we're going to renotice them, I believe. We're certainly going to renotice the 30th Street project. We might not have to renotice both.
Okay. All right. So the fact that they're on the agenda, they've been noticed, we can, without, does that require council action to pull them? The fact that they've already been, or can we just make the announcement based on the information you just said and move past them?
I think you can move on unless anyone objects.
That's fine.
Okay. For those of you who may have come, we apologize for that, but that's the way it is.
Can we give them a date For those that are here, when it'll be first reading?
For the September meeting?
September 12th?
Are we talking in 2 weeks at our 9 o'clock meeting?
We just need to evaluate the notice requirements. I think it's gonna be.
It's gonna be hard to get that in.
It would be hard. And we have a little bit of redrafting to do as well.
So safely for the September meeting?
I think that's a better option.
September, the first meeting in September?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
May I say we understand?
Sure. Please come up
I
here.
just wanted to say that we understand it's complicated and could, with y'all excuse, my engineer friend and I, we find our way back to the highway and we'll come back when it's rescheduled.
Yeah, it'll be properly noticed.
And,
Yes,
Mr. Corey, I don't think you did anything wrong. It's complicated.
Well, I understand.
It'll benefit everybody.
I'd rather get it straight and do it right.
Is anything needed from the applicant's end?
I don't think so.
Okay, as we just said, it will be re-noticed and everyone will give proper notice. All right, so with that said, we are moving then to ordinance 674. Again, this is a first reading of 674. Do I have a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Is there any opposition to reading?
No.
Okay, please.
Ordinance 674, an ordinance of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, amending the Land Development Code of the city, providing findings of fact, providing for design standards for residential construction, providing for foundation requirements, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date.
That's the first reading. In conjunction with that, for table as well as staff, we have a moratorium currently on metal buildings or whatever you want, whatever that, I'm not sure the right language to put, but I believe it. That was good for, refresh my memory, was it 60 or 90 days?
It was 6 months.
Is it 6 months? Okay. We don't want to lose sight, and we want to decide, I think it should be put on a meeting schedule to discuss what we plan to do concerning the moratorium. And it's, what, we're 30 days into it? Is that correct?
Every bit of it.
Yeah, so, and Nick, we may need some guidance about what, I mean, we can't just, as we said earlier, you weren't here, but when Bo was here, we can't just zone them out, but we can't, whatever language is appropriate to ensure that we don't put garages on lots.
Let me backtrack and see if I can make sure I understand. I'm not at every meeting, so sometimes things slip through the cracks. Did we complete the second reading and adoption of the ordinance devoted towards metal houses? And we're talking about the garage house issue now? Or did that ordinance not? I thought that was adopted and that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think that ordinance had a clause in it that lifted the moratorium on metal houses. And this is a little different issue about homes that have primarily just a garage door on the front that are being used secondarily to store stuff.
Do we consider that a separate issue, or is that all? the
That
same?
was
No,
kind
separate.
of, it was a separate, because one did have a metal, that was the big part. There was an issue of a lot of people who do not like a garage that's.
The look of a garage.
Well, just the fact that it's actually becomes a garage.
Okay.
If they're not there, they put their boats or whatever else in it.
Well, then you're right, Nick. I sort of misled that. There's two issues.
Yeah.
So then my other question is, and this could have occurred when I wasn't around, did we separately do a moratorium on garage style houses? I'm not sure that we did.
I don't think we did.
I don't believe we
I don't
did.
think we
Okay.
did.
I think we did the metal building.
The
metal
metal building, but
buildings,
not
yeah.
the garage style homes.
So Mel and I, prior to the last meeting where we weren't there, I did review the video on that meeting. We were both previously under the impression that there was solution that would work well enough under the Florida Building Code, but it sounds like that's not going to be inclusive enough. It doesn't sound like it addresses boat storage. It probably addresses storage of motor vehicles. So we're happy to put together an ordinance to fix this situation so you have a clear way to prohibit future
Isn't that what we're
applications.
looking for?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I would suggest that it's easier to focus on something that's geared towards the front of the house not being used for some too high of a percentage for garage doors, so that you're ensuring that a house that's constructed is going to have living space in addition to just the area that serves secondarily as a garage.
See, I contend that we have something on record now in the LDR about that it must conform to the neighborhood.
Right.
That could be expanded if it's necessary to ensure that this table, and for sure, the city administrator has
right.
what is considered conforming to the neighborhood, if that needs to be explained better.
And that's a very good point, because usually I think most residential homes, they're handled at the staff level, so.
Exactly, they never get here. But if there's some quirky thing about it, it should come here. That was my contention about.
So we'll have to bring something back.
Okay, yeah, something to work at. We good there, everybody? Okay. Okay, moving to the second reading of. Well, I'm confused. These back and forth pages, I don't know. I mean,
We're gonna be
670.
numbering these from now on.
well, some of them are, some of them aren't. Have you figured out the numbers?
No.
Okay. All right, before we leave the first reading of 674, even though we just had it, there's a couple things in 674. First, there's no definition, while I think I understand off-grade buildings, there's nothing in there that tells us or tells anyone what off-grade buildings are. And it also has, at least to me, a subjective word, sufficient size. That's under number 1 of the ordinance. That concerns me.
Didn't Bo mention that we had 700 square feet last meeting we had?
Well, this doesn't have anything to do with size. Nick, does that make sense to you? What?
Oh, yeah. I was not involved in preparing this, but I had
No,
the same
you were
thought
not.
when I looked at off-grade. I thought, well, what about homes that are elevated?
Exactly.
Is that what you're intending to cover?
Well,
it probably covers it.
I'm just not sure what it means.
Yeah, me either.
I mean,
I'm not sure what.
Oh, I totally agree. I think
Okay.
it probably is intended to cover houses that are a foot or two off the ground, but it probably also covers houses that are 12
Exactly,
feet.
but
off
it
the
doesn't clarify that.
Right.
And that could be a significant issue
Yes.
in you dealing with those. And sufficient size bothers me, if we could look at that.
And I think those are changes that should be the kinds of things we can do between.
We
first and
can
second
do
reading.
between, and it won't change the context enough to withdraw the first reading?
I believe so.
Okay. There's also a misspelled word. Okay. I saw a hand in the back. No, I didn't see a hand in the back. Okay. All right, moving on. Second reading of ordinance 670. Do I have a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any objection to reading? Please do so.
Ordinance 670, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, banning medical marijuana treatment center dispensing facilities from being located within the boundaries of the City of Mexico Beach, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing an effective date.
Any comments on ordinance 670 from the table?
None?
Any comments from the floor, from our citizens on ordinance 670? Is there a motion to adopt?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes. All right, next is ordinance 671. Which is a second reading, which has to do with trash. Do I have a motion to read by title only? So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any objection to reading? Please do so.
Ordinance 671, an ordinance amending ordinance 658 to provide for year-round garbage and trash collection for 2 times per week, repealing any parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing an effective date.
Comments from the table concerning ordinance 671? None?
None?
From the audience, from the citizens? Please come forward.
Mayor Kathy, Council, I have looked at the ordinance, and it does not fulfill the requirements or the intent of the Solid Waste Management Act, or Florida Statute 403, which contains significant issues on recycling, household hazardous waste, yard trash, and so forth. Another thing is we're paying at $26.85 some of the highest fees in the Gulf Coast. Right down at the end of Azalea Drive, which is where I live, Waste Pro's hauling trash for $18.64 a month. As you pointed out, Al, we perhaps are in a waste flow contract with Bay County where we have to send our stuff to the incinerator in Bay County, and that is our albatross around our neck. But I would implore the council to look at a tiered approach to solid waste. For instance, on Azalea Drive today, we have 23 platted lots, only 6 built houses, and when the truck came down, there was only 1 pickup for all that. 1 pickup. I've seen them in past times going down, tossing water balls and so forth, whereas either in St. Joe or in Tallahassee, where I have another house, there's 1 guy, an operator, and he's going down there methodically picking up the cans and so forth. 1 operator, 1 truck, not 3 guys on a truck doing their thing. So I'm saying that our solid waste sanitation operation is fairly ineffective. It's not really efficient. And even your old solid waste ordinance handout that you sent to us right here admits that you're losing money on your solid waste operations. You propose to raise the rates to $30 a month. That, I wouldn't say it's an anathema, but it's a hard pill to swallow, where you can get a solid waste operation like Waste Pro to come in if the waste flow ordinance in Bay County is not in effect, and do it for a lot cheaper and a lot better. There's an economy of scale that we just can't have here in Mexico Beach. The waste haul distances are about 20 miles each way to the burn plant. That's, you can't, you won't hardly make money on that. You can't make money on that. So are you going to increase our rates to $40, $50 a month for sanitation just to keep your 3 trucks and 6 people in operation? Really look at maybe getting out, if Mr. Benanati can look at Florida Statute 403 or the Solid Waste Management Act, where they dictate waste flow. See if we can't, through economic hardship, get out of that. We're paying a lot of money for a service that I don't use. I hardly put my garbage out at all. Today on Azalea Drive, 1 pickup and 20 lots. Although you all charge in all those vacant lots some money, it's an inefficient operation. I don't know if we have.
Corbin, let me ask you something. Unfortunately, I don't recall you being at the other meetings. This room was twice this full. I think you might want to go back and watch those other meetings and then come back and tell us you're in a minority.
I am in a minority.
You're in a, well, I'm just being truthful with you.
In a minority in what sense?
We have approached sanitation more than any community probably in the state of Florida.
I would doubt that.
I would
doubt that, Al.
Well, okay.
I look at what's happening
on
Azalea Drive.
We appreciate
and what I'm saying is, I don't think we can afford to do what we're doing now.
Okay.
Competitively with all the communities around us. That's my
Thank you, sir. All right, is there a motion to adopt ordinance 671? So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Albert?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes. Okay, thank you. All right. Moving to other business. We all have had the Leave No Trace draft. We've had it ample time to digest. Our attorney is here. We have an opportunity to ask questions and decide what we like, what we don't like. Are we pleased with what it says, if we fully understand it? So I'll open it for us to simply, if there are those of us that have questions on ordinance, it doesn't have a number because it's just a discussion on the draft that we have in front of us. So I'll just open it to whoever has a question.
On page 6, down at the bottom, A, obstructions on the beach. It says any persons to leave an item. Does that include businesses?
Yes.
And do we need to specify business for the future so that it's crystal clear?
It does include businesses, and I think if we looked
Does it
at
say
the-
it's someplace else in there? Could be.
I think if we looked at the general definition sections throughout our
Okay.
code, we would probably find person defined to include businesses as well, but I can confirm that.
Okay. Are there other questions? Well, my question is, I don't want to sort of intertwine the two, but under beach vendors then,
Yes.
are we offering an exemption to leave no trace that allows what we have now to operate?
No. What's established in the beach vending permit ordinance it goes part of the way. It provides an exemption for booth stalls and storage boxes, but not for the individual pieces of personal property, such as large chairs sitting out on the beach. I've had some back and forth with Mel on this, and there may be some interest in expanding the flexibility of the permit to, on individual case-by-case situations, maybe allow for something like that. That's not how it's set up now, but if you prefer that, we can make those revisions and make it work that way. But this is really set up just to cover storage boxes and the booths that are on the beach.
But the exemption is going to be covered under beach vendors, not in leave no trace.
Correct. There's a
I mean, I'm just-
reference in leave no trace to, let's see. It does tie together. Items expressly exempted by city ordinance from the leave no trace requirement, either in all cases or pursuant to a specific permit or approval. That's in
That's in
something
the
that can be left.
vendor ordinance.
That's actually in the leave no trace. That's an exception to.
What page is that, Nick?
What page?
Page 7 of 9 in the leave no trace. It's
Exception.
under 2, Roman numeral 8. So what that's doing is it's allowing us in that beach vending permit ordinance and other ordinances to create exceptions. It's just in the beach vending permit ordinance, the exception that's created is fairly narrow. It's not intended to cover whatever we put in the permit or to cover everything that the vendor brings down on the beach. It's just meant to cover boxes, booths, and stalls. But again, if there's an interest in having more flexibility with the permit be able to cover other items, we could explore that, but that's not how it's set up right now.
The reason I raised the question, and I speak solely for myself, and I went to Panama City, I looked at what they did, because that was supposedly a sort of a mirror writing of where some of the language came from. And they have a vendor exemption that allows people who qualify as a beach business vendor in specific locations that they are exempt. And when they say exempt, they're exempt for their boxes, they're exempt for their chairs, they're exempt for their jet skis, they're exempt for the items that it takes to operate their business. They have the exact same chairs that are used in the one location in Mexico Beach that we have chairs. They look identical. You can't tell any difference. They do not move them. They are exempt. I was in hopes that Mexico Beach would, when we say exempt, that would be for beach businesses and related items that it takes to operate their business. Because it's not practical, just as they told me over there, it's not practical for those people to move those 70-pound chairs. And they keep them in an orderly way, just like the one business we had here. So for me personally, I would like to see, I don't know where the proper language is, but I would like to make sure that we can operate a business as we've been operating it for almost 20 years, and there's never been a problem with it, to be exempt. Now that's how I think of, I don't think that leave no trace, just as it didn't do in Panama City. I don't surely can't imagine that Mexico Beach, that we don't want as you said in all of those whereases, that it is in the best interest of the city to have businesses that are beach-related activities. If we're going to really be that for the one that we do have, and some other one that may come along, but we've already limited to the locations that we currently have.
Right.
And we've set it up so that now we've included the landowner, the upward landowner, which I think is a great addition. And if we're going to be a beach community and we have little activities that are beach oriented, to have one and then make it where they can't operate feasibly, it just doesn't make sense to me for leave no trace.
May I?
You can say anything.
As far as just the leave no trace ordinance, from my personal feeling, I'd like it to see it left as a whole umbrella for all of us, whether we're beach businesses, whether we're citizens. If we're going to have an exemption, or if we're going to have the ability to, for a vendor to say, hey, I can't be a vendor here and actually with all my equipment do what this ordinance says. My feeling is that should be within the vendor ordinances, that we would have a paragraph in there, much like how we treat a variance for residential property, that for some reason there is an issue with the property and not being able to meet the regulations for that. We have in our LDR the ability for a person to come in and say, hey, I need help, and through a variance. It does two things from that. If we leave it open and it just applies to everyone, that variance, it really just applies across the board all the time. If we tie it to a vendor, if the vendor moves, if the vendor sells the business, if there are changes within the vendor, then each time that vendor comes in to re-reference or reapply for his license, in essence, then it gives the city ability to review the vendor and review his needs. And I think that's important for us now and in the future. I have no problems or no issues of trying to put our vendors in a situation. I think we need to look at their needs, but I think the needs isn't in the leave no trace ordinance. I think that's in the vending license that comes in, where we can look at it that way.
I agree that leave no trace should include businesses and people, and there's no exemptions in the Leave No Trace. If we make exemptions in the beach vendor, we have to be fair about it. So I don't think it's just because a business is currently in doing it that they get the exemption, but John Smith down the road comes up and we don't give them an exemption. You have to be fair. If you give it to one business, there's no reason that we should not give it to the other. And the same thing about, I'm assuming this would be in the beach vendor license too, driving on the beach. If one vendor can do it, then another vendor should be able to do it. We shouldn't be able to pick and choose. And it would go from year to year permit. If they're doing if we give it to them 1 year and we're satisfied with how they operate, fine. If they request it again, fine. If we're not satisfied, then no, they don't get it. But we have to be fair.
One quick comment just for, I also remember that I think a meeting 2 months ago that we had, that we discussed in depth the Leave No Trace ordinance. At that time, it came up in the meeting of an exemption. Okay, didn't hear me? Okay, sorry. I have a tendency to lay back, sorry. No, the only comment I was saying also, in a meeting we had roughly a couple of months ago where we went in depth on the Leave No Trace, actually the idea of an exemption came up, and basically people said no at that. I think it doesn't believe in Leave No Trace. I think it needs to be in the vendor ordinance.
And your comment about Panama City, I know they have the heavier chairs, but in Pensacola's, I think it's their Leave No Trace, they have required them to get rid of their heavy chairs so that they have to take them off nightly, and they had until January of next year to replace them.
I didn't want to raise the word Panama City Beach.
Oh, that's all right.
We're nothing like Panama City.
I know, that's all right.
We're certainly not like Pensacola.
No, right.
Nick, would we, if we gave an exemption, like the El Governor, like it is, if the other two locations wanted to do the same thing, I mean, wouldn't it be that they could put their chairs down to Driftwood, Toucans, the other little hotel?
That's what it says.
That's the way it should be.
Okay.
I would ask, just by the way, the idea of having something more tailored to a particular permit or variance, we could work something out like that. But really, the main issue we all know is heavy chairs. I think we should just decide that and not rely on a variance for that.
Well, you know, I think it's up to the business. If somebody's got heavy chairs and they don't want to do it anymore, somebody will find a way to run that business. I don't think that I'm not in favor of letting anybody stake out prime location on public beach every day of the summer. When I walk, and I walk a good bit, to walk down there and look. I guess if I were a citizen, I could come down there and say, I need this chair moved because I'm going to put my umbrella here. I just don't think it's a good idea. That everybody that wants to be in this business, if we create exemptions, we're going to create problems. If they drive 20 feet on the beach and we've already got a letter for somebody that wants to drive on the beach, even though I wouldn't like it, I would still vote to let that person ride on the beach if we let somebody else ride on the beach, public beach. I think it kind of gives somebody a monopoly of doing business when there's other people. When I walk down the beach, I don't even know who it is. There's orange chairs. People say, well, the chairs blow away. Their chairs aren't blowing away. I don't like to get into thing of picking and choosing who can do what. I would rather, being in business myself, I'd rather compete fairly to be able to put chairs out.
I just want to clarify before we continue on. What is written here clarifies
What
without,
page?
without,
Excuse me, what page?
well, all of it. It clarifies where business can operate. So when we use the word beach, public beach, the businesses that we're discussing are limited to, it says permissible locations. It tells you exactly where they can be. Generically speaking, we have never had a commercialized beach, like the guy that has asked for to use a four-wheeler to pick up his chairs. What he's talking about is just going on the public beach, wherever whoever rents a chair and an umbrella. We've never done that, but we have allowed it in a business location that is defined clear. I mean, it's clear where those can be.
But
What's-
if they put them out all day, 24/7, then somebody that's coming down to the beach, they say, oh, I like that spot. Well, so there's 25 or 30 chairs out in front of that spot. They can't go where they choose to go because even though it's 7 in the morning, because it's already taken with all the chairs.
You're talking about behind these businesses.
Yeah. Like, I'm talking about some of the people that would stay in Driftwood or Bona Vista or El Governor and not rent the chairs. They bring their own. Well, you know, they're already down there, so.
And what's the difference in the business that's behind the business leaving chairs up, and yet we have another business who will rent me a chair for a week, and they have to come in and pick it up. They're still in business. They bring it every day right now.
But it's not an approved beach vending location.
But it is here.
It's
We
not.
have,
Why would we give, they bought property on 98 to build El Governor or Driftwood or whatever. They didn't buy the rights to the public beach.
They've got some of it.
Well, and they do have some of it. That's private. Move your stuff on your private property. Stack it up. If you like the way it looks, leave it there and rent it as people need it. Don't set it out there. And
I guess I've been doing it 20 years. There's never been an issue. I don't know of any complaint, one.
Well, we didn't have
Well,
no
we
trays
have legal-
either.
I know, it just seems to me we
You know, we
jump
have,
through a hole for no reason when there's no issue.
I'll say,
But that's my opinion, that's fine,
Okay.
whatever. My position is that there should be an exemption. We recognize in everything that Nick has written here, that the city recognizes the need for beach businesses. It seems that we have become, because of Leave No Trace, I'm of the opinion that we've become negative about a beach business and what it takes to operate a beach business. You have to have stuff on the beach to do that.
On the
And
other
I'm curious,
hand-
I
this doesn't
disagree.
say, can you leave your jet skis? It doesn't specify that.
You wouldn't be
and
able
you
to,
shouldn't.
right?
they used to take them off
So
years
you
ago.
put them out of business is what you do.
no,
Years
we're
ago,
not.
They took it all off.
No,
Years
no.
ago, they took it all up. I can remember driving down 98 and didn't stop because they would be taking them across the street. So they used to do that. I don't know when it was stopped. I wasn't
You know,
that in tune to it.
we make every business in town, regardless of whether it's beach, follow regulations. If they want to expand, they've got to follow regulations. If they want to do this and that, they have to follow regulations. That's part of being in business. I don't think there's a person up here, Al, that wants to put anybody out of business.
What's the result of what we're talking about doing?
They may have to change the way they do business.
Well,
You know, everyone has to change. IBM has to change if they need to keep in business. Or they can be a Montgomery Ward's and go out of business. We either change or we move forward. And yes, I'm sorry, it may need to be a change in a business, but I have confidence in the gentleman that you're talking about. I think he's a heck of a businessman, and I think he will change to do what needs to be done.
Somebody
Well,
will
that's
take
his
place.
choice.
Well, think of other businesses, Bill. Think of the pottery place down there. You gotta move your pots in at night, can't be out there. You gotta move.
But that's not a regulation,
Look, I
right?
may not have a popular opinion, but I'm entitled to it.
You
I
are.
don't wanna hear
No, you are.
catcalls from the back, okay? Please. That's not appropriate. You can disagree with me respectfully, but I have a position that I support, and I'm fine with that. And if it's not popular with who's sitting here, I'm sorry. It's not my place to sit at this table and be catcalled about, okay? So please, come to the meeting. If you have a comment, come up there and make your statement. You're entitled to that, and I respect that.
I guess the other way I look at it, and I respect what you're saying, don't get me wrong,
Okay.
is that if we start giving one particular class of businesses exemptions, then we have no problem then if the restaurants come in and say, hey, we don't like this, we want exemption, and oh, by the way, you gave this other business group.
That's not, we have one beach business.
I
I
understand
would
that.
think we could manage
But we're
one beach business.
But we're going to have more. We have a lot of
But that-
beach down here that's going to be built, and that's what ordinance is in
pie in
to
the
protect.
sky. That's a pie in the sky.
Going to happen.
But
May
why-
not be in my lifetime, but it will
Well,
happen.
also, when we give a business license, if we don't like what's going on, we don't give them a license. So that's exemption in itself. That's restricting people in itself, depending on what they want to do on the beach. And so,
Oh, that's a tax, not a license.
I never have found a problem with, matter of fact, my suggestion was to let them keep their heavy beach chairs down there, because it's okay with the hotel, and the hotel owns a certain amount of public property, private property there. It'd be the same thing with any other business, a hotel or motel, that may own some private property there. I don't think they shouldn't go all the way down to the water, and I don't think they have. And everybody's got room to walk, and that area has always been kept clean. And so I think anybody else that comes in and wants to do business on the beach, we're going to look at them as an individual situation, and we're either going to like what they have to say, or we're going to say, no, we're not going to give you a license. And then, how are we going to justify not giving somebody else a license? And if you're not careful, we'll wind up with a carnival up and down the beach.
So this ordinance actually is intended to minimize that. It lists specifically the kinds of services and goods that are allowed, so we don't have to get in, because we'll think we can make the choices and they'll be easy when they appear to us, but sometimes somebody's going to present something that we didn't expect, we never thought of, and we're not quite sure what to do with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking, yeah, exactly.
Well, I think what is, from this meeting, if there are changes, specific changes or direction to give the attorney so that we can put these on for first readings.
I just want to make sure that for leave no trace, not the vendor license, that business is included for not leaving any item of personal property. If I missed it, Nick, that's fine.
I can add that clarification.
If it's not,
Is that what everyone wants to do?
I just need to clarify.
Does everyone want that?
No.
Well, let's
Not
make a
everyone.
motion then. Make a motion.
Okay, I make a motion that we specify on the obstructions on the beach that any person or businesses somewhere in the leave no trace ordinance, it specifies businesses are included, that they must follow leave no trace.
And so they must remove everything off the beach.
For leave no trace, yes.
Okay, then how can we go with the vendors and say something different?
Because there was something in there that said exemptions. So I'm assuming that if you wanted to do that, you could put it in the beach vendor license for exemptions if the council chose to do that.
And it's already in the beach
Yeah.
vendor ordinance, but it covers storage boxes, booths,
Right.
and huts. It doesn't cover more items than that.
And
just to point out too, that whichever way you go on this, adding the business language, I mean, in a sense, it's going to apply no matter what, because every employee of every business is a person. Someone ultimately has violated the ordinance if something is left out overnight in violation of the the timing rules. Person, that's maybe a lawyer mistake. We always include businesses and persons, and like I said, there's probably already definitions somewhere in the code that does that.
I just don't want to get caught up in a loophole
Oh,
in my
I'm
mind.
happy
That's
to
all
add it.
that I was thinking.
Okay, does everyone understand the motion?
I don't.
Okay, could you restate it, please?
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. To include obstruction on the beach, any persons or businesses to leave, it would be unlawful to leave an item of personal property. To include the word business.
So does, oh, I'm sorry, I have a question.
Just a moment, just a moment. All right.
It would be section 2A1, it's the page 6
Page
of 9.
6.
Instead of it saying it shall be unlawful for any person to leave an item, you would want it to say it shall be unlawful for any person or business to leave an item of personal. It's a simple change if you want to do that.
Okay.
That would be my motion.
Okay, do we have a second to that?
I'll second it, Big
All right.
Side.
Comments? Please come forward. I'm sorry, it's just easier to do it that way.
Okay. I just have a question about personal property of a beach vendor. Does that mean that a heavy chair is a piece of personal property? Or does that mean that it's different? It's a piece of equipment that he actually operates his business with?
It's personal property.
It's
We're
personal
discussing
property.
the prohibition. This is, you cannot do this. So we're talking, this isn't part of the exemption.
Excuse me?
We're not discussing the exemption right now. We're discussing basically the rule that says don't leave personal property out overnight.
Okay, so,
But businesses are included in the personal property.
Yes.
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 But it's in the leave no trace ordinance.
Yes.
It's not in the beach vendor.
Okay, I'm still not clear, but thank you.
That makes two of us.
Sometimes we,
How can we have it in the beach vendor and not have it in, it looks like one could offset the other.
It does.
It
That's how
does.
it's designed. It's designed.
It's
so that-
designed to complicate things.
It's designed so that the leave no trace ordinance creates a simple rule that can then have exceptions in other ordinances.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht?
yes.
Mayor Kathy?
No.
Mr. Wallace?
No.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes. Okay, so we have that one change, and we have others. Anything else in leave no trace in terms of the draft that's been presented? Okay, moving on to beach vendor. We have a draft that we have discussed sort of with the other one, but do we have any comments on it?
My comment I'll make same again, that if we're going to have exemptions for vendors, that it should be an individual, pertain to one specific vendor at a time, and include some kind of language in this that allows them to ask for a variance or an exemption for certain items that's tied to their yearly license.
I have a couple of questions.
All right, go ahead.
On page 3, section 4, number 2, it states that if a business goes out, if it's going out of business or seasonal closure, the beach vending permit is automatically suspended and will go back into effect when the hotel, motel, etc. reopens. My question is, if the beach vendor license or permit starts in October, and let's say the hotel closes in May and June for 8 weeks, will the beach vendor permit be up again in October, or do we give them 2 additional months?
No, it's just an annual permit.
Okay.
And really the purpose of that language, it's not so much about closing that is part of the business activity. It's more about making sure we don't have Not vacant, parcels with buildings, but that are basically vacant, not tied to this beach vendor situation. I thought we wanted an active business associated with what was going on the beach.
Okay. My next question would be on page 4, under 7, and it talks about the exemptions, booth stalls and storage boxes. Do we have to specify, or is there any reason to specify where they would be located in terms of up against a wall? I'm assuming that they would do that because our current business does that. His booths and stalls and storage boxes are up against a wall. But I'm looking down the road and I'm thinking of a couple of, hotels where maybe it's not close proximity, their walls to the beach. Is there any reason we have to be that specific, or just
Leave it to the hotel.
leave it to the hotel?
It's up to you.
Okay.
As written, it's not that specific, and you won't necessarily see that placement all the time.
Okay. And in here, is there anything about vehicles on the beach? I
No,
mentioned that
and
before.
So
How do
I'll
we
just
do
make
that?
a few comments on that. I've actually talked to Mel about this yesterday, and maybe we should add some language. The way I view this is we already have a different ordinance that deals with vehicles on the beach. It describes work vehicles being permitted by the chief of police, and it seemed to me like all these beach vendors could qualify to have a work vehicle that the chief of police would authorize. But if we want to say something more directly in this ordinance, that's fine. If we want to say that they can only operate the vehicle in their permitted area and between their permitted area and the closest beach access, that's fine. If you want to say they can have only one vehicle, that's fine. If you want to say they can have as many vehicles as they want, that's fine. But we do have that topic already covered elsewhere on our just general driving on the beach ordinance. So that's why it's not handled here.
I'm just wondering, should we consider putting it in, since this is a beach vendor permit, should we put it in here so that they don't have to go be looking in another document for it? It would all be right here. This is what you have to follow. I'm just speaking for myself. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Well, you said it's covered already, right?
It is, and if you wanted to take a conservative approach, we could always say that they qualify to have a work vehicle under that other structure. They don't have to go get it permitted by the chief of police. I mean, I think it's fairly clear if they've got this beach business permit, if anyone's allowed to have a work vehicle, that's probably them.
That could be included in the permit itself.
It could be.
Okay.
But-
And I hear from some of the residents, what size vehicle are we allowing? Now we know that four-wheelers and then we know that there's a larger one. Sometimes we see the tractor going down. Do we care? Or do we need to specify a size limit?
Up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that from some of the residents, but I'm just throwing that out for,
Well, I would also think if you get too big a vehicle too often down there, it's going to tear the beach up, which is going to probably be an issue with the owner of the motel or whatever, who will get with that vendor and suggest he may try a different size vehicle, or she. And we've left a lot of this type management to the motel owners anyway, so I don't see an issue there.
You hear that, Lisa?
No, repeat it.
I'm not sure I can. And I had the microphone right in front of me. My statement was, I think we have, in many ways, are leaving a lot of the management of vendors to the business owner. I think if there was a vehicle large enough to create an issue for the beach and the niceness of it and the prettiness of the beach, the business owner probably would find it an issue for his business, and I think he would be able to control the beach vendors saying, hey, too big, tearing it up, find something different. So I'm not in favor of putting any more restrictive language in here.
I actually agree with you.
Shock.
Yeah.
You owe me a beer.
That's right.
Other comments?
There's a hand.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Mary Lee Rollerson. I just want to know if the beach vending permit that you're going to issue, does that require insurance? Do you not think it should? To protect the vendor, but also to protect the city?
I'd say so.
I don't know about required any business a requirement from the city. I mean, I'm not sure
Well-
that's, I don't care what business it is.
Our
I've never
current
seen
vendor does carry insurance. He carries a sizable insurance policy. And it just seems to me that that's a safety issue. And I don't know how the accident that happened in Panama City, I know we're not Panama City, but they did have an
Right,
accident
they
with
sure did.
parasailing. I don't know if there was an impact on the city from that accident or not. But I'm just thinking about, other things that happen, things that blow away and things like that. So I think.
Nick, I don't know if that's something you can do, can you? Can you require businesses in general, no matter,
If you're going to issue a permit, can you not require them to get
there's
insurance to
some
get a permit?
regulations?
We could, it would, I think, need to be tailored to meet the kind of risk level of a particular business, because we're not ahead of time knowing exactly what kind of businesses are going to be out there. They're going to come to us with applications, but I don't know that we've done that with any other business in town. But I'm not aware of a reason why we couldn't. I remember hearing a comment at the prior meeting that, well, that's what they tried to do with scooters in Panama City. That was because of a very specific statute about motor vehicles. So I think you could create that requirement if you want. It doesn't exist now. Usually the market controls, even if you don't create that requirement.
But wouldn't that take some liability away from us? If we're giving somebody a permit to do business on the beach and somebody's suing them and they can't get their money out of them, then they're going to come to the city and say, wait, you approved this business to be working on the beach.
It'd be a difficult lawsuit. I mean, you certainly could have to defend a case like that, and it would be a nuisance, but it's not a strong lawsuit.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm gonna ask, my suggestions, which are not popular, but I think that there should be vendor exemptions for people that for the business that we have, that they should be able to operate like they've been operating. And that's not in here, and so we're talking that the only thing, if I'm reading this right, the only thing that they can leave are the storage house.
That's the way it's set up, yes.
Not equipment necessary for the operation of the beach.
No, they'd have to put them inside the storage units.
Is that the intent of the council, to ensure that that's all they can leave down? Is that what we want to do?
So you're saying if they build sheds to put their heavy chairs in, they could put them in those covered areas next to the wall, just like they're using already, and they wouldn't have to move them across the street.
The way this is drafted, they could do that, and then it'd again be up to the hotel or restaurant owner to say that that's too much stuff out there.
Well, yeah, I would think so too.
And maybe we shouldn't say shed, because a shed almost implies a permanent structure. That being in the CCCO line would mean the state would get involved as well.
You
So
couldn't get a
storage
building
box
permit.
is more appropriate.
Storage box.
Because it's temporary.
Storage box for their life jackets and those things that they normally are doing.
Well, but they have that now, but I'm talking about the heavy 70-pound
Well,
chair.
no, what I'm talking about in general, is that the intent of the council, before we move on, so that we understand that that is what this says, that is all they can have there?
I'm comfortable with how it's written. If we exempt one, then we exempt all businesses, beach vendor businesses, so that once they get If they have something there for, they get a connection with a business, they can leave their stuff out there as well. Our beach is only, what, 3 miles long? I'm not sure we want it loaded with a variety of chairs 24/7, but if that's what the council
But I'm
wants.
talking about everything, and not just the chairs. I'm talking about the jet skis, if they have a sailboat, if they have, I'll get to you. I mean, it says in here that the only thing they can leave are the storage containers.
That's right.
That's all it says. Now, prior to tonight, in many meetings, this table has advocated that what's down there was some contention about the chairs, but nothing else. Now what we're saying is nothing but the storage containers. Is that what everybody wants?
Al, why can't he move it? I understand, Nick, and you may answer this. That El Governor owns property that's private property that's right next to this. Why can't he just put it on his private property?
We identified that we're speaking of now the beach. We've done away with private versus public because
When did we do away with it?
In this ordinance. I mean, he's got.
Well, let's change it. Let him put it on his private property.
So the lengthy warehouse clauses, a lot of those are a description of title issues on the beach to give a background and rationale for why it is we're regulating the beach and we feel that we're allowed to. That area behind the El Governor is, I'm not going to say it is or isn't private, but it's not settled. And regardless, it's okay for the city to regulate privately owned beach. It's done commonly. You have some other areas in the city, small areas that are private as well, and they don't all qualify under this because they're not zoned general commercial or tourist commercial, and they don't have a hotel or a restaurant. They just have a house sitting there. So it's the ownership issue is not the way this ordinance is organized and set up.
You know, Al, I hear what you're saying, and when this Leave No Trace started, it was recommended that if the current business would just push everything back to the wall, we were at that time comfortable with that while we were mulling through the rest of Leave No Trace. That wasn't well received for whatever reason, I don't know. So we did at one time suggest that, you know, while we're mulling through, just move it all back to the wall. But I see
My point is that's not what it said. What it says is you can have nothing down there, or no other business can have anything on the beach but a storage container. If they're issued a business license to do in the 4 locations that are currently allowable under the criteria for permissible locations, the only thing they can have are storage containers, period.
So you would like to include the banana boat and the jet skis and all the chairs? You would like to include all of their equipment?
I would like to include what it takes to operate their business, because remember, we only have one business, so we can't, or I can't envision what somebody else is going to come up and say, hey, Toucans, for an example. These people have given me permission. I'm applying for a beach vendor license. They're going to come before this council. No, you took that out. It's going to go.
It goes to Mel, and then if he denies it, they can appeal to you.
So the city, my point being then, the city has someone for the city that says, what are you doing here? Well, I don't know, I'm going to rent, I'm going to rent catamaran sailboats. Well, you can't leave them on the beach. All you have is a storage box. Well, that doesn't make sense to me. That just doesn't make sense for a business to be able to operate a beach business with the type of equipment that it takes to do that we're going to tell them that they can't leave it there overnight in these specific locations, not generically, but in the 4 locations that are identified under the current zoning of the city. And it plainly says a parcel is the location of a hotel, motel, restaurant, tavern, bar, currently operates under the city state law. They're obviously all GovFront properties.
I guess I hear it,
That's what I think is appropriate.
but one of my problem is the future, we know what this vendor you're talking about has. We know what this one vendor has, what we don't know is what's going to come up. I still feel that the city should have some kind of ability for any business that would come in, beach business, where the beach is our business too, not just theirs. The beach is our business. But that it comes in and they can then say, you know, if I have a license, then I can, after I get the license later in the year, I can put whatever else I want on the beach. Because it's almost, you know, I think we should have a little more control of what can go on the beach. I think the city's giving up control.
You don't think all of these things that are listed are sufficient?
It's like anything else. Those may change as, you know, as we change, and that's what's in there.
Well, if someone wants a license, we give someone a license to do business on the beach, then they can list for us what they're going to be doing on the beach. And if anything changes, then we take their license expires. We could have that understanding. That's one bit of control we would have over that business. And we'd have to have that control over each business. I don't know that we're going to have hundreds of people that want to do business, but I agree with you. We need to have control over these folks that we're giving a license to do business on the beach.
But these activities aren't sufficient?
Well, I'm
Look
talking
at them, there's 11 of them.
Well, I'm a little more lenient on what a business can keep on the beach than the rest of us. And I always have been. But as long as it's kept in an orderly fashion. But like you say, it's kind of difficult for somebody to rent a sailboat and not have the sailboat on the beach. And then they've got to bring it from across the road or 5 miles away every day back and forth. So I think by that we're limiting the amount of businesses that we can have on the beach. Well, okay, that's all right too. But what I'm saying is, by virtue of giving someone a license to do business, in that itself, we have some control over what they're going to be doing. As a matter of fact, we have total control over what they're going to be doing.
If we list it, I don't have a whole lot of problems. I think, I agree the business that's adjacent to the property should have a lot of control, but it almost seems to me as if we're giving for that part of the beach total control, the city is giving up total control to the vendor and the business that's adjacent to it. Unless we put something in place that we have some type of control other than just say, here's your license, go to it.
Well, we could say, here's your license, go to it. You cannot have any of your business equipment within so many feet of the water.
Could that all be on the permit?
Well,
I would like an exception to store things on the beach for these items. And then,
Well, you could, but again, we're talking about heavy chairs. I think everything else, probably the businesses could manage. It's the chairs. Let's decide if you want to allow the heavy chairs or not. Let's not make it case by case and have to struggle with this sometime later.
And the reason just one last comment from me, it is critical, at least I'm just, that the business that supports the beach vendor, another business has to support that. They can't just show up without permission from an existing business. Well, no business owner that is has GovFront property and caters to their clientele is going to allow someone to operate down there that isn't doing it in an orderly way or would be a detriment to the business, to their primary business. They wouldn't do that. So to me, when you say control, I think what's more important is the way it's written to make sure that the business, the Upland business owner is the person that will be policing it much more than us. They certainly will not want someone that is doing something as an operations behind their business on the sandy beach to do something that's causing them a problem.
Let me ask a question.
So,
Let me ask a question.
Sure.
One of the contentions seems to be the heavy chairs. Would this beach business owner go to a different type of chair that can be easily moved out of the way but still meet their needs? And if we gave a time frame for that to happen, so that it wouldn't be a...
Well, I can't answer that. I just can go by history that for 20 or close to 20 years, those chairs have been part of that section of beach. And there's no, I don't know of any issue. They keep it clean. I don't know of anything. You can rest assured that the owners of that motel, if they were causing a problem, they would have said something to him.
Well, I think going by history sometimes can be, can pull us sideways. I can think some old stories about people that went by history and found out,
okay.
you know.
Well, anyway, let's you and I don't debate it. Let's get everybody involved.
You got
It's
it.
gotta be,
You got it out.
I could be swayed by keeping the jet skis and the sailboat, the banana boat up against the wall. I could do that. But don't think I can be swayed to leave the chairs there.
All right, so let's just, as Nick said, I think at least 3 times, the chairs. Let's just discuss the chairs. Those commercial chairs, we've all seen them. And I raised the point of what I said about Panama City Beach because that's what they do. And they got a lot more people, a lot more businesses. They got hundreds of them scattered along their beach. But that's here to there. We're in Mexico Beach and there's not a problem. And I would be for keeping the chairs as part of the equipment for the operations of a business.
I'm not in favor of the big, heavy wooden chairs that I think at times can be dangerous. I think if we have a problem down there because of the weight and size, they can be difficult to move. We are seeing some pretty nasty storms from time to time, even though that vendor particularly does a good job of trying to get them off the beach. It scares me that if something is missed, they can float, they're heavy, and one of our other visitors who's out in a boat could accidentally hit it. I would love to see that vendor go to a lighter chair and work with us, and we can work with him, that would meet his needs and our needs. I don't like the big, heavy wooden chairs.
All right, Lynn, I know you don't like the chairs. All right, Jerry, you like the chairs, dislike the chairs?
I'm okay with the chairs.
You're okay with the chairs, Rex? You like the chairs or dislike the chairs?
I dislike the chairs.
You dislike the chairs. Okay.
You got a hand back there.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to you. I haven't forgot you. I just want to clarify. So for Nick's purpose, then what is written, we're okay with everything but the chairs based on the vendor we have there now?
Pretty well.
Well, that's not what this is.
No, that's not.
Okay.
So we want to.
So I guess.
Allow boats and jet skis and stuff to stay on?
I guess we have to exclude the chairs.
And so if you have aluminum chairs and the wind comes up.
I don't know how to, I guess exclude a chair that weighs more than 75 pounds. I don't know how you do that. But if you have a light chair, it's okay.
Well, I think that, I believe it's Okaloosa County actually stated that it's not that they excluded chairs or anything, but they, for some reason, had a problem with the heavy wooden chairs. And in their ordinance, when I pulled it up, I could always find a copy of it, but they actually gave the beach vendors till January of 2008 to find a business chair that met their needs, heavy enough not to blow away, but also light enough that could be moved and their needs. They gave them a period.
That would be great.
It's not the only ordinance, it's not, I'm just saying there are others around.
And so what did they do with their chairs? They put them in storage sheds?
I don't know on that. I really don't know, Jerry.
I would certainly be, let's let, this lady's been patient. We're just kicking the tires. Go ahead.
I'm Debbie Alley, 106 20th Street. My question is, we walk on the beach a lot too. And you go down there when they're moving jet skis in and out and across the road, and they'll run over you coming up, jetting up through there, coming up beside the old governor. They don't watch out for people. They're just running on those four-wheelers. They also tear the heck up out of the beach in front of the old governor. If they put anything heavier on the beach, then it's going to make it a lot worse. And I know he has a huge tractor, which is going to make it a lot worse. The owners of the old governor, I'm not so sure, know everything that's going on at the old governor because they have a manager at the old governor, but he doesn't always say what he would like to say because sometimes he's intimidated. Also, we have a lot of people that we recommend to stay at the old governor, and they are intimidated by all the chairs that they feel like they have to rent, that they can't bring their own stuff down to the beach because all these chairs are on the public beach. And that's public beach in front of the old governor, and their private beach is over on the side. So also, now there's twice as many of those big chairs on the beach as there were before. And they're there 24/7. Can they not put them out as people request them and not just leave them all over the beach all the time where people don't feel like they're able to use the public beach that they came here to enjoy without having to pay somebody to rent a chair or an umbrella? Or that's my comments about,
All right.
about that.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other comments concerning, I don't know where I am, beach vendors? Beach vendors. Any more? Okay. I would certainly like to see us give, at least do a phase out then. If we don't like them, period, I mean, there's a considerable investment. Would there be any phase out to the SS of a certain date? There's no,
I think
the season's over.
I'm not asking you.
The season's just about over.
I think 6 months.
Starting next year.
You know.
Well, I think for some, wait a minute, for somebody that's been in business, and I'll tell you the truth, initially, it irritated me because we couldn't get any cooperation out of this individual. But I still understand that he's been doing business there for years, and we've not had one complaint. So if you want to change him out, so I think he's got a lot of money invested in his wooden chairs. Let's give him a year or two to phase them out. I think that's what the other people have done.
I think a max would be a year. That's my feeling.
Well, that's just
because that allows him to.
That's just very arbitrary, right?
You're right.
But is that practical?
We can do that.
So what we're saying is, we're gonna give him I just want to clarify this, we're gonna give him a year, say, to phase out the chairs, but in the meantime, he can leave all his wooden chairs on the beach?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not for that.
I'm not for
I just figure
So
if leave no trace, everybody's to remove their chairs and their umbrellas, then do it. I don't care if he has the heavy chairs. That's his business, and if he wants to move the heavy chairs, that's up to him. I don't feel that I have the right to say, you have to get lighter chairs so you move them off the beach. You
Well,
have
he's fixing to
choice.
move them because the season's over, as Rex just said.
Yeah.
So if we give him a year or pick a date, from September 30th, he has a year, is that, as Rex, as we just said, he's been doing that a long time. He's got a considerable investment in that. Is there?
Yes.
And I think a year would be sufficient to market the chairs someone else.
Give him,
I don't have a problem with
But
that.
my point being that if we do that, can we allow him to be exempt from leave no trace so that Nick you gotta know what to write. I'm trying to get.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I'm trying to get him some.
If
So if it's until September 30th of 2018, I know,
I just picked a date, but to me, that's the end of the season.
That's fine.
And that'll give him one season to start. At least he'll have something. He'll know he's got a year and if you can't,
Okay, and then after that, then he has to remove all the chairs
you
off
have
the
to
beach.
move all, yeah, you can't, or
Okay.
to get a lighter chair, something he can move. and
Move
store.
around and store. I have no problem with that. I would,
The
sure, I would
September
love it.
30th affair die? Is everybody okay with that?
I'm okay with that. How about you, Rex?
Let him, give
I'd
him
like-
a year from September 30th?
Like it to
Can
be
we,
May the
now that, I don't
31st.
think has to,
You'd like to
that's,
do what?
see, that's sort
May
of a
the
different
31st,
kind
but-
of, now we're specific to that business. Should that be in here, or that should just be something that we pass?
I would rather make it apply to any business that has the beach vending permit, and right now, that's probably gonna be one, it may. not
Okay,
be.
just make it so as
Allow
if there were
anybody
more
for-
than one.
But the other folks, if they don't already own those chairs, are not likely to go buy them.
No, that's right.
They've only got one season to go.
Right.
But this would give Hector a chance to try to sell the chairs, transition the chairs.
Exactly. All right. So can we make that then part of the, is that agreeable? Is that agreeable?
Are they
We need
still-
a motion, or we everybody just okay?
I have a question. Is that business still suing the city?
Yeah.
Yes.
There hasn't really been any activity, but yes, the case is still open.
Okay, so do you have direction? I'm hesitant to even ask you that.
Yeah.
Okay, you're
I
good?
can do it. And here's what I'll do to make it simpler. I'll bring a new ordinance that says that, and we've got this other ordinance as a backup in case it doesn't pass. We've still got something else.
Okay. But that's the only section in it appears that there's,
Okay.
okay. Last call for comments. Want to give everybody a chance. Yes, sir. Come to the podium.
Butch Alley, 106 20th Street. Is there anything that says how many he can put on the beach? I mean, can he like double them, or is there like a?
That's up to the owners of the land.
Okay.
Well,
We own the land.
Well, okay. The use of the property by the people that are
El Governor.
El Governor or the Toucans or Driftwood or
yeah.
whatever. Right? No, we didn't regulate. I think it's not in it.
Well, I know that I have seen people sit down on those benches down there in front of the El Governor, and they'll come up and say, "Y'all got to move, or you got to pay for the rent. You got to pay the rent on the."
Well, here's all I can say to that, Butch. I've followed, I know the owners, I've talked to them extensively about this issue. The owners are very much in tune with what they're doing there, how it's run. And they tell me that I asked them that. And they are very pleased with the way that business is running.
Okay.
So,
on the beach permit application, can we put a cap on how many chairs can be put out in a specific space? I'm just, and picking up on what you said, right now, I don't know if we have 28, 25, but who's to say next year we don't have 45? And I understand what the other visitors are feeling, they're intimidated. So who's to say that they won't have 45 or 50 next year?
You could. I would suggest not doing it based on numbers of chairs, and it would
Okay.
just be more of a square footage of the beach.
Okay.
But it's not in there now, but.
All right, and I'm just throwing out the ideas.
Well, couldn't that be done in a permit or a contract that we sign every
That's what
year?
Yeah, that's what I mentioned. in
Yeah,
the
and we
permit.
could speak to that specifically with each
Yeah.
individual situation.
So again, that's sort of the purpose of this ordinance, is to take away this case by
Case
case
deals.
and make it simpler and predictable. So it's not in there right now. If you want to have something like that, I'd rather just build it into the ordinance.
In other words, something like we
So how
do with
many
number
square
of
footage?
Can we get what we have agreed on in writing, and then see if we'll have another shot at it?
Sure.
It's like we.
It's not like season starts
That's
tomorrow.
right.
Will there be a Cliff Notes version of this available?
But it won't be readable.
If it does, send it to me, will you, so I know what happened?
I think we've got a decision on the language that we're willing to accept at the table. Is that fair? Is that a fair statement and you understand what we're gonna change? Okay. All right, moving on. Thank you for your patience. Where are we? Public Works Director. Is this, you awake?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Jeff, I'm gonna need your help on the curbing one because I don't have anything. But pedestals, real quick, we got 3 pedestals down there at the canal project that weren't installed earlier in the year during the project. We have in front of you a bid from Current Solutions for $8,600. We have one of 2 options here. The way I see it is A, approve the $8,600, let Current Solutions order the pedestals, do the work, call it finished, move on. Or B, we order the pedestals, save a little bit of money on taxes and markup fees that Current Solutions would more than likely charge us to order the pedestals, and then just let them do the work, which would, we believe, well, we know it'll drop the price down.
$3 grand.
Yeah, $3 grand, which would put us below the $8,000 mark. We all want to install the 3 pedestals. We all believe it's a good idea. We need to finish this project on out. And my recommendation is to, my recommendation is to do whatever y'all want. But to save us a little bit of money, we just order the pedestals ourselves and let Current Solutions do the electrical part of it.
Well, for saving money.
Do that.
So you're saving, what, $3,000?
$3 grand.
No. You're not saving 3.
Well, yeah, we're not saving
spending
3 grand.
$3,000.
No, we will be
We're
spending.
gonna buy the pedestals. We're saving the tax on $3,000.
Yes.
And whatever markup, if there, we don't know because we just have a $8,600 price.
There's always a markup when somebody
Well,
orders.
There's other things that go along now, the curbing.
We haven't, we're getting to
We're
that.
gonna
We're just
talk
talking
about-
about
hang on.
pedestals here.
We're all looking at a total amount here though, before we're all done. Okay. So let's don't talk about this, let's talk about the other 2 things. I mean, we've got here, we know what this situation is. How much is the curbing gonna cost us? And how much is the drainage gonna cost us?
Curbing and draining all falls to the
That's
same
all in the
project.
same thing.
And then how much money do we have left?
And we all look at agent.
I feel like one of those balls in the
Curbing.
ball machine.
Stuff bouncing around right now.
Curbing.
All right.
We initially discussed running curbing the entire length of the project. We went away from that. Curbing is going to be, essentially what it'll be is around the first set of stairs, second set of stairs, which allows us to control the runoff, the rain runoff, to collection points. Then we'll have some stormwater down there at the ADA ramp and a swell, which Jeff and I talked about earlier today. We could handle that ourselves in-house. That would save us a little bit of money there. But as far as the pricing goes for the curbing is,
The cost for the curbing, the quote we have is $12,640. That's about 400 linear feet of curb installed throughout most of the eastern portion of Canal Parkway along the project. And what this is to protect the steep slopes on that end of the parkway that you see the current sandbags out there trying to protect right now. There's stormwater runoff that comes off the CDC parking lot and really erodes the slope right there on the south side of Canal Parkway. So the curbing would, like Philip said, would be to catch the stormwater runoff, route it to the inlets that were just installed, and keep it off of the grass surfaces to protect those slopes so they don't become a maintenance nightmare. So.
and it's very important that we, in my opinion, that we do this, because if we choose to not do this, we will never be able to control the erosion, and it'll be like the wall won't be like it was before, but the slope will be as bad as it was before.
Correct. And there's a couple other components to this. On the western end of Canal Parkway, there's room to do a shallow swale leading the stormwater to an inlet that was reset. So we wouldn't necessarily need curbing there. We could collect the stormwater runoff with just a swale section just east of the ADA ramp. And then west, we would install a little yard drain and tie that back into the swale system. The contractor provided a quote for this. It was right around $6,800. Talking with Philip, he thought that was something that the city could handle. so that there would be an option for you there. Right.
We can dig a swale, can't we?
I believe we can, yes, sir.
But then you gotta-
We should be good at it.
And what's happening down on this west end of Canal Parkway is the sod is actually up a little bit higher than the street, and so it's funneling everything to the ADA ramp and washing out the soils underneath the ADA ramp. So we're trying to get it to collect it and route it into the inlet, protecting that slope underneath the ramp, so we don't have a constant mess that we're having to maintain. There's one more component to this. After we were talking about installing the curb, we didn't want people to just pull up over the curb, damage it, so we'd be also in another state of constant repair. So we talked about having little 4x4 posts installed with coated cable in between it behind the back of curb to keep people from pulling up on the curb and damaging and trying to park in that /green area right off the edge of the road. So 3 components to the stormwater management portion of it, and then there was also the dock pedestals that Philip mentioned. Those are the 4 items that we're really talking about tonight. So if you're going to have the contractor do the curbing and the swale and then the 4x4 post with the coated wire, you're looking at about $24,000. And then the dock pedestals were $8,600, and I think the funds left in the canal,
There's enough.
200,000.
I don't think the contractor ought to do the swale. I don't think they ought to do the 4x4 post. And surely we can do that.
We can do the swale, we can do the ADA pipe, ADS pipe. We can't do the curbing, we don't have any way to do the
Post.
curbing.
Right. The protected post with the cable behind them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You said it was how much?
$3,700.
$3,050.
That's the contractor's price?
Yes.
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm talking about some 4x4 post.
Oh, we can do that.
You follow what we're talking about?
I am completely on the page there.
Okay,
I was getting
okay.
to that point where I was gonna say, yes, we can handle that. But
It's,
yeah.
it's exactly what
I understand.
it's exactly what they already installed to keep people from parking out there in the green area next to the chair.
Just what we're doing now. So-
Correct.
So we got 8,600 and 12,600.
Correct.
So if we, instead of the curb, what if we extended the curb up and got away from the cable in the wood posts? Extended it up more for
It won't stand
a
up.
sitting area, no? Okay.
Won't
Where you're
stand
getting into kind of a specialized form.
Okay.
up. You get somebody with a big truck that
Okay.
runs into it, it's gonna bust it.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we need tonight is decision. Do we want to do the curbing? Do we want to do the other stuff? Sounds like we want the city to go ahead and take care of that. And do we want to do the dock pedestals so we can get those change orders pulled together?
And why
Have
don't
Mel
we give a
sign 'em.
motion not to exceed a certain amount of money, and then that'll give staff the opportunity to buy the pedestals, save the money on the tax, and at least the number we give them not to exceed will cover that. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah. The contractor said how much on the pedestals? 8,600?
86 and 12.6.
12,600 is the curbing.
Right, but I'm saying if we make a motion to
It's like
spend that
21,
amount of money, not to exceed whatever that number is, it'll be less than that because we're gonna save on the pedestals. We know that going in. But we don't know to the penny how much they cost, so we don't need to try to figure all that out. We just need not to exceed. That'll give them the opportunity to buy them and still have the money to pay the bill. And we'll get some change to that. Does that make sense what I'm saying? All right, how much is it? What are those two numbers? I see you writing them down. What is that? What are those two numbers?
Oh, I don't.
21,200.
Well, there's
21,200.
8,600, 12,640, 6,800, and then 30-something hundred, 3,500.
21,200.
There you go.
Thank you.
So 25,000.
Thank you, Rick.
Not to exceed 25,000.
21.2 is good.
21,2 sounds, 22,
22, round it off.
That's right.
All right, can I get a motion?
Motion,
22, not to exceed 22,000.
not to exceed 22,000.
22,000. Thank you.
but I like your idea better.
I do too. I have a motion for 22,000.
Second.
We have a second. Any conversation, any comments? Know what we're doing, putting curbing and putting in some
How
pedestals.
quick does this happen once we approve it?
It takes them 3 weeks to actually get on site, and then the curbing work's gonna take about 2 weeks. So,
2 months.
Well, I think now's the time to do it.
Is there any opposition to the motion?
I guess not.
All right, motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Jeff. Health insurance, is that Adrian? Mel, I'm sorry.
Adrian threw that volleyball into my court.
Oh, he
so-
did?
So
Okay.
I'll take it from there.
I got you.
I know Gerald's had a good time enjoying this meeting here.
I see him sitting back there.
But the city had gone out for requests for qualifications for agent services for health insurance. We did receive 3 proposals from 3 highly qualified firms. All 3 proposals were excellent. They, of course, is Stanford Insurance, Emerald Coast Benefit Advisors, and if I say this wrong, my bad, Van LaRope Insurance Services. We did give a copy of these proposals to all the board members for their review. And at this point, I'd like for the board members, if they have an opinion, by all means throw it out. If you don't have an opinion, we'll take it from there. So,
So I'm interested in what the staff's opinion is.
all right.
Any other, before we go, anybody have a comment? No.
Jerry's coming.
No. Right. All right, let staff go ahead.
All right. It was very difficult to give a 1, 2, and 3 based on the product we received, because they all said they will do a good job, and we don't doubt that they all do. What separated each of them from one another was when we actually called the references that was in their packets. And based on that, we had 2 that stood above the other 1, and we narrowed that down to just 1 of the 2. And in our humble opinion, based on the recommendations from the verbals on the telephone, Van LaRope Insurance Services was far and away number 1.
Where are they?
They are out of Port St. Joe. They service the city of Port St. Joe. They do some of the courts in other counties, things of that sort. This is one, when we call for a reference, the person on the other end said, without a doubt, the best decision we've ever made. And so when you have someone who tells you that, then you take a lot of stock in what they say. Comments?
Okay.
I don't have enough knowledge of insurance to do a lot of comments. They all looked fairly decent.
I was more confused after reading them than I was before.
I needed a beer.
Yeah. Something working.
So Mary Leonard seems to be the guru, right, of insurance?
Well,
Unfortunately for her, yes.
but
Well-
at this point, it hasn't gotten to what her
Oh, okay.
expertise is. You know, we're just
Okay.
choosing the agent who will now,
Okay,
you know, shepherd forward and get proposals from different insurance companies.
okay.
And just for me, it's not Mary's job to discuss and explain to the employees
No,
the health insurance or anything else for that matter. It takes up, you know, she does it because that's just who Mary is. Y'all known her for a long time. But it eats up a ton of her time trying to sit down with everybody. I hate using this phrase, but that's not what we pay her to do.
right, but in any office, there's always one go-to person,
And she is that go-to
you know,
person because there's nobody
and
else.
that's why I said that. Yeah, no, I didn't assume that that was her job. I'm just thinking of an office in general.
The The person that we chose as our number one said without a doubt, when it comes time for renewals, they will come to the office, they will meet with each employee individually or collectively, whatever we prefer. Anytime we have a change in a new position or a new employee, they will come out again and meet with them privately, go through all the benefits and everything, so that there's no questions about what we have.
All right, not because he's here, but I want to say I've known Gerald a long time. He's been with the city a long time. And I appreciate your service for what you've done, because I know you and I know that you have had the city's best interest for years, and I thank you for that.
And we still have Gerald for our liability and things like that.
But I just know behind the scenes some things he's done, and I just want to say it because he's here. Appreciate it. All right, we have a recommendation from staff. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion, we accept the staff's recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any opposition to that? Everybody good?
Good.
All right, motion carries 5-0. Moving on, Chief Kelly. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's one that's holding my hand up.
Please come up, please. Some of these folks don't know you. So and the tape will pick it up.
I'll wait a second. Just wanted to ask one question, and this is the benefit of the city. I'm thinking, do y'all or do you not have any grandfathered plans now?
I didn't hear the question.
Okay, the city, back when Obamacare came in, they gave the insurers at that point an opportunity to keep their plan they had in force as long as they did not make any changes down the road. Now, I don't remember, and I'm asking you, Adrian, does the city have any grandfathered plans that you know of?
I'm not aware that we did, because last year we made a change from that old plan.
You only have one plan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you don't have the other plans then?
Just
okay,
one.
all right. Yeah, I just didn't want them to give up something that they can't get back.
Gotcha.
Okay, but it's just a pleasure working with the city. For the past 18 years we've been in here, and I hope the other agent does just as good as we did.
Good for you.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
All right, Chief.
Yes, sir. The monthly report for July 2017, the Mexico Beach Police Department responded for a total of 341 calls for service, to include 3,785 building and security checks. Also, traffic stops during the past 31 days. A breakdown, not going over the entire list. The highlights: we had 9 arrests, 38 traffic stops that consist of 6 citations, 15 warning citations. We made contact with 1 distressed swimmer. We had 3 welfare checks, 3 vehicle accidents with injuries, 8 vehicle accidents without injuries, and 1 suicide attempt threat. We had 5 aid to other agencies outside the city of Mexico Beach. We had 7 verbal disturbance calls, 4 DUIs, 1 domestic violence call, 2 physical disturbances resulting from a domestic call, 7 burglaries, 3 vehicle burglaries, 11 found properties, 1 vehicle stolen, 21 medical or sick injury calls, 1 of which was life-threatening, 11 reckless driving calls, and a breakdown of some of the top statistics. We recovered the stolen vehicle in Atlanta, Georgia. One of the theft reports was $2,000 in value. The items have been found and charges were declined. One of the vehicle burglaries, the items have been located and returned, and the vehicle owner declined charges. That's all I have for the report.
Questions for the chief?
One quick one. In the medical area, I think you said there were 21. Are any of those related to what we keep hearing about, the opioid epidemic? I mean, are we seeing any of that here?
Not to my recollection that we received anything directly.
Thank you.
we've had a few drug-related incidents, just marijuana traffic stops and things of that nature.
Okay. Questions for the chief?
But we do have the items needed in the event that an officer is contaminated. The sheriff's department has donated them to us. We've received training in that article to render it to the officer for safety reasons. And upcoming this month, in fact, next week, we're also attending additional training for fentanyl and some of the other additional drugs that are in and around the area. That has not become a major issue.
Good. Let's hope it stays that way.
Anybody else? Thank you. All right, Mark's report is next, and it's on the back there. For those who may not know, our ESU director has submitted his resignation effective, is it September 1st?
September 1st will be his last day.
Last day.
He's going to bigger and better things.
Bigger and better things. There you go. I wish him well. Philip, do you have any comment?
Now, unless y'all got a question for me.
Well, I asked you earlier today, I guess you could just right quickly, the DEP permit for the canal.
The update on that is, they denied our first application. We have to provide them a survey and a site plan of the location. What I handed out this morning, or not this morning, sorry, it's getting late, is just the proposed, the red rectangle is where we're talking about putting it. So I'd love for you guys to take a look at that, think about it, get back with me, give me your thoughts.
Well, let's get that done now. We don't want to get back. We want you to be ready to move on. Does anybody have any problems with the location? All right, you got that answer. All right, whatever.
That's it.
How many feet off of the concrete is that?
It'll be butted up to the
As
concrete
close as we can
sidewalk.
get it to it.
It's on the southward side of the retaining wall, so we don't have to fight with that, but it'll be butted up straight to the concrete sidewalk,
To the sidewalk?
to the sidewalk.
Okay, sounds good.
And that beach is getting used more and more and
Yeah.
more.
And it's 14 by 40?
14 by 40.
Is that bigger than the other one was?
I don't tell you how.
I think the other one was 12 by 4, if I remember right. It was it wasn't as wide. That's just a tad wide. All right, any questions for Public Works? Anyone? Okay, thank you, Philip. Is you?
All right, the report is in your packet for the month ending in June. Only two things I want to draw attention to is on the second page. General fund operating shows it's in the red again. Many of you will recall about a year ago the same thing happened. It's the reimbursement for all the grants. And the other thing that we've been talking about is sanitation. You'll see it's got $612 in it. So the good news is we paid for the truck without borrowing money. The bad news is there are $612 in it. That is all.
Questions concerning financial report from anyone? Mel?
Thank you. I'll start by saying that Bay County is now going through a process to identify all the properties for which they have ownership. That kind of sounds silly, but as time goes on and people don't pay their taxes, a lot of times those properties revert to the county. And the county, from time to time, doesn't have any idea of how many of those happens in a year's time, things of that sort. So their governing body asked their staff to provide that list. And what they have found, that they have a number of properties around the county that they have no interest in keeping ownership. 3 of those properties are in Mexico Beach. In other words, the Sunset Park is not owned by the city of Mexico Beach. It's owned by the county. There's a triangular parcel of property in front of Parker Realty that is owned by Bay County. There is a section of our beach east of Toucans that is owned by Bay County. And I was told by representatives from the county on Monday morning when I had a meeting with them that on August the 15th meeting, which is coming up, they will be discussing this And there is more than likely a response that will look favorably on turning those properties over to Mexico Beach. They have no interest in it. If anything, it's a liability, because if there's an accident on there right now, it's on them, not us. So that's good news, I think. Also, as indicated earlier, Mark Stengel is leaving employment with the city, so we will be advertising for his replacement very shortly and try to find someone that will do as good a job as he did. No question, Mark had grown in his position over the past couple of years. He has given us a level of confidence. He has given us a level of confidence not just in our eyes, but those of his peers in the county. And when it came time to finding volunteers to do certain things, it was an easy thing because of those relationships he had established. So hopefully we'll find someone who can do that as well. And we'll go on. The last item is the Leave No Trace contract, Coastal Parasail. Recall that we gave them a 30-day notice. That notice ends on Friday. Since that notice was sent, Coastal Parasail has really picked the ball up and worked with us quite extensively. They're in contact with Philip Hall, not constantly, but very often, to let him know what they're doing, how they're doing it, or do you have any problems, what can we do to make it better, et cetera, et cetera. They have a proposal to us that if we allow them to keep the contract until after Labor Day, in other words, the Labor Day weekend would be it, they will drop the price from $300 a trip to $150 a trip between now and that time. We have in the contract weekends where we have them doing it, because still sometimes in September, weekends can get kind of busy. But we think we can take over in September and do just fine, with the exception of the Labor Day weekend itself. So I have no problem of doing that, but if the board feels otherwise, by all means, let me know, and I can have my mind changed.
I think that was the purpose of giving the 30-day notice.
All right.
Mission accomplished.
Yes, sir.
So your suggestion is to go on and let them complete their...
Complete it through Labor Day.
Okay, it's okay with me.
Good.
Me too.
Moving on.
All right. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, any announcements?
I got one there.
All right.
And it's got nothing to do with the city, it's just, I'm very happy about it. The newest little one was added to the family last Wednesday, and it's pretty awesome.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Grandpa.
The only comment I have is our code report. Do we, I haven't seen that.
Normally, we give the code report and the weekly report, and that's all that we require.
Was it there last time?
It wasn't in the meeting
I'm
report at all.
challenged now when it comes to emails and opening and getting all that stuff right. So did y'all get it?
I didn't see it, but that doesn't mean I didn't get it.
Did you see it?
No,
I don't-
but that doesn't mean
Let me ask.
I didn't get it.
Anyway,
If you wish, we can have him do a monthly report like the rest of the people do, to give the public a little better
well,
understanding.
I like that. I guess you're right. We got it in the weekly report. I just don't remember me getting it.
Okay.
That's all.
Can I ask a question about that?
About what?
Did I miss my opportunity?
No, you haven't missed anything. Go get it.
The code man is the one that enforces cutting the grass?
Correct.
Okay, and so we give them 30 days, or how many, 2 years? How much time do we give them?
Definitely not 2 years.
Well,
10 days.
it said 10 days?
If I'm not mistaken, that's what it says in the LDR.
I read the LDR, anyway, I guess maybe I napped through that part, I don't know. But, I see grass growing that's been growing for 3 months. It was cut early spring, hadn't been touched. The reason I see it is I go by it every day. And my wife would be very happy if somebody would cut that grass, because I would quit complaining to her every day about the weeds. But I think if we have that expectation of the citizens, most of the people do a great job of taking care of their place, you know? So why can't we expect these people that mow their grass, why do we have to go back and write them another letter and wait another 30 days or 60 days or what? I'm disappointed with how much time expires between us getting action. And I think we're more than lenient with some of the people that are repeaters rather than, I mean, we can fine them $500 a day. I think I read that. As long as, you know, past a certain time that they don't respond. And maybe with some of these people, we need to be doing something like that. But, because I don't think the staff needs to go back with repeaters after repeaters after repeaters, you know? And I would just like to see us enforce or move along with keeping these places neat and clean.
Do this, put the ordinance in our box. It's not an agenda item, so it's not really appropriate to get into a long discussion tonight because it wasn't. But if you put that in, just reference to, then we'll all have it, we can look at it and decide if we want to do something about it.
Will do.
I got one other question in that line since Jerry brought up. Once we've decided, say a trailer has to be taken down or something, and we've written the owner and all, you know, we've complied, how long does it normally take before we either take a trailer down or we clean the lot up or so forth, you know, after we've gone through all
I
of
think they've
this?
got 60 days, don't they?
We
From the time
try
they
to give
start.
them plenty of time to take care of it on their own, but at some point, they go before the special master and they make the final
They
order.
make the final decision.
I was kind of curious what that some point is, I guess.
You know, and I'd like to see us require, when we give a permit, for someone to have something to put the garbage in immediately before they even start working on that property. A lot of people get started working on the property, and I don't think even have a permit sometimes. And, you know, stuff's blowing around all over the neighborhood, and it just looks terrible. And I don't know that we're enforcing that.
We occasionally get a call from people, and we do send code out, and they have spoken with a lot of contractors about getting and dumping their dumpsters and keeping them
That's
less
good.
full than full.
That's good. Even sometimes when they have the dumpsters, the 30-yard units, and they get full and they pile stuff up, a good wind blows it right off.
Right.
So maybe they should keep it covered with a canvas or something, or get it hauled away, because it's defeating the purpose if it's still blowing around the neighborhood. And I think we're really lax on making people do what they should be doing. I had to do it, you know. When I did mine, I had mine 3 times, you know. If it got up too high, I covered it up or I hauled it away. Why can't everybody else do
Due
it?
respect, it's not an agenda, we gotta be, we gotta,
Well, that's
you got anything else?
I won't bring this up for another 6 months.
It's a rant time.
Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.